When I think about my story, I recognize that I probably shouldn't be here today. I should probably be one of those statistics that you hear about that finds themselves in a generational poverty that is feeding into the criminal justice system. Because those are the scenarios that I grew up in. You know, my parents got divorced at an early age when I was 3 years old. We moved from Alabama to Buffalo, New York. We lived there for 9 years. My mom was trying to get her MBA, and it was very difficult. It's a single mom with 3 kids, and this friend at that time introduced her to crack cocaine. And that turned into a 30-plus year struggle with substance abuse. When you're a kid, you don't really know that much. You just live life. You know, as a kid growing up with brothers and sisters in Buffalo, we were just an adventurous bunch of kids, and at the time we really supported each other. 9.5 years went by, and I only saw my dad in that time twice. When we were in Buffalo, didn't go to church a single day. We knew nothing about God. We knew nothing about church. But my dad became a Christian. He wanted to get his family back together. And so, believe it or not, my dad remarried my mom. And at 11, we moved back to Alabama. The marriage didn't last very long. It lasted about 6 months. And it was the time that we really realized how deep and how intense this substance abuse addiction was. The things of the drug world just became, unfortunately, a norm. Mom began to pawn things in the house in order to be able to buy more drugs. Whether that was my dad's saw or tools or anything. She would get to the point where she would pawn her new wedding ring. And the first of the month would roll by, and the first thing that we would do, we would go to the pawn shop and we would get mom's ring out. And then we spent a few hours doing some drug runs. And inevitably, every month, before the day was over, we'd end up back at the pawn shop. We found ourselves, frankly, homeless. We would go and maybe live with grandma for a little bit, but 4 kids living with grandma just didn't work out. And so we ended up in the projects in a little town in Piedmont, Alabama. The funny thing about it is that no one taught me more about love, and no one taught me more about sacrifice to my mom. It could be that she would take your last dollar, but she was always the first one to give her last. In our neighborhood, we were always that family that if you were hungry, you could always come to our house, and even if it was our last snacks, we would share. I remember my mom would make us on Saturdays go and clean up the park that was right in front of our house to teach us how to respect our neighborhood. And it became something where every Saturday people in our neighborhood would come together and pick up trash and keep our park neat. In my household, it was expected for you to do your best. It was expected for you to take school seriously. And so mom set those expectations at home. And I really feel that it's so important for parents to take the lead on their child's education, despite circumstance. Otherwise, you're dependent upon the school district, or you're dependent upon just that individual having the right makeup to want to be successful and driven themselves. And that's tough. Every kid's not necessarily like that. I had the opportunity to go to the Alabama School of Math and Science and live on campus, take college level classes my junior and senior year, which really helped me to reach my potential. And that happened because my mom really cared about education. Afterwards, I went to college, and my older brother went to college. My sister was at Auburn University. All 5 of my brothers and sisters and I went to college. And that's so rare because less than 5% of the African Americans in the projects where we grew up went to college at all. And yet we did. The difference was my mom. That was the only difference. It wasn't because the school districts were great. You know, and sometimes in the projects, the excuse is, well, the parents are working multiple jobs, or they're not home when the kids are home. My mom struggled with substance abuse. She worked odd jobs here and there. She was or wasn't home. But there was that expectation that regardless of what was going on with her, we were going to get our homework done, and we were going to do our best. And so that was part of it. After college, I had the opportunity to move out to Texas and be the internet systems architect for a consulting company. And it was while I was there, trying to climb that corporate ladder, so to speak, and do well, my two younger brothers were at home, and they were really struggling. My mom's substance abuse problems had gotten worse, and they were caught up in that scene. And they began their own journey, their own struggles with drugs, and even at a very young age. And so they were taken away from my mom and placed in multiple foster homes before they ended up in a group home. 17 boys in one home with one adult. And so in 2003, a very pivotal year, I bought a home in Texas, in McKinney, in a good school district, in a dry town, hoping that one day my mom could come and live with us again and kick this substance abuse addiction. I got custody of my brothers and brought them to Dallas, to McKinney, Texas, and I thought that was going to be the end. I thought that was going to be the solution right there. Just get them here, get them in a good home, get them in a good school district, none of those trappings of poverty. And I was wrong. They brought the very issues that they had, that they struggled with, came. And I remember the first time I went on a trip, I got a call from the cops. And my brothers were throwing a wild party. Beer and alcohol and teenagers and cars all over the place and broken windows. And the house is barely a few months old. So those struggles came with them. So we had to work our way through that, and we had to grow through that. My youngest brother was reading on a second grade level. He was in the fourth grade, and it took us 2 years of working with the teachers and with the school hand in hand to get him reading on a sixth grade level by the time he was in the sixth grade. My brother Quinton, who was living with me, ended up in the Marines and now is a Dallas firefighter and has a family. And so we endured through that, through lots of ups and downs and lots of mistakes. I was able to start a company in 2003 that focused on career education and training and development, which is near and dear to my heart. It's one of the reasons why I was able to make it out of the situation that I grew up in. And so I get to return that. But here I am trying to raise my brothers and run this company at the same time. And at that time, my mom also came from Alabama to live with us and spent 9 months in really like total rehab inside the home. It was so awesome because from that moment, she was off of hard drugs and she never went back to hard drugs again. We had some sweet time together before she passed away a few years back. But I could be one of those statistics. I could be in the same situation in Alabama. But I'm blessed that wasn't the story and that wasn't my journey. And I really want to hope that my story could inspire others, that despite their circumstance or despite their situation that they find themselves in, that there's hope. I think the biggest thing that I would say to someone who was in my situation growing up, who's a kid who might find themselves there now and it's really difficult, you're not defined by your circumstances today. Don't worry about the things you can't do or the things you can't afford or the things that you don't have. Don't take shortcuts. The biggest reason why a lot of people stay in the situations is because we take shortcuts. Because we don't have and everybody else does. And don't make excuses. And don't give in to the pressures of the moment and take shortcuts. Because it's only through the consistency over a period of time that you're going to find the strength to make it out. And the things that you do now are heavily going to affect your future. The obstacles that we face today really are the things that are catalysts for our future. And to not look at it in a negative light, but to realize that there's growth there and there's opportunity even in the midst of struggle.